Welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Mom's Room podcast. I am Dr. Allison Felt, owner of Body Motion Physical Therapy, and we are so delighted to have Sharon Muza with us today. Sharon comes to us as a childbirth educator. She also is unique. You have so much impact, Sharon, and I don't even know where to start, but we're going to dive into a lot of things relating to the birth world today and kind of preparing for childbirth. And you're going to share with us some stuff about VBACs. So we'll focus this episode around VBACs, but I would love for a lot of moms here, they might be looking for their second childbirth and never have had childbirth education courses. So really any tidbits that you feel like you want to throw in, I'm more than delighted to hear. I know that you're a doula, you teach doulas, you teach childbirth education. So without further ado, Sharon, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Allison. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about myself and how I hope that I can help expectant families and feel prepared and ready.
Lovely. Cool. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your business?
Yeah. In January will be my 18th year in business, and I'm located in Ballard here in Seattle. But obviously for the past almost entire 2020, I feel like I've had folks attending my classes from lots of different places. I wear many, many hats, just like you said. A true freelancer. I teach families, childbirth education independently. I have a classroom and an office in Ballard. I train childbirth educators through an organization called Passion for Birth. I write a blog called Connecting the Dots, which is Lamaze International's perinatal professional blog. So it's really geared toward to doctors and midwives and childbirth educators and doulas and lactation consultants, but lots of parents read it because it's all evidence-based. Gosh, I doula and I train doulas. I rent birth tubs and I sell rebozos and I do some ghostwriting for other people. And I started, like as if quarantine isn't enough, right? I started a new little business with a colleague called Creative and Confident, where we teach educators how to deliver a really bang up product to childbirth education virtually, right? Because it can be real, like who is not zoomed out already, right?
Absolutely.
So that's really been fun. Yeah, just really a Jill of all trades.
Great. Well, we'll drop your blog in the show notes. We'll also have all your information so people can find you there and really dive deeper into what you do. What's your favorite thing you do?
My favorite thing to do, sometimes, I think my favorite thing to do is teach anybody. Like I love teaching professionals. Like I love teaching labor and delivery nurses and midwives. I do some stuff through UW and Seattle University. I love teaching families. I love training doulas. But I also, when I go to births, I love supporting families. Really, I think I just love opening up the vision for people to see what true informed consent and shared decision making and power comes, what it looks like, right? And the magic of all that, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's cool. I guess this is a good time that we dive into one of the big things that no one else is doing that I think is really important is your VBAC childbirth prep classes.
Right.
So for everyone who's listening, if you're not familiar with VBAC, it's vaginal birth after cesarean. And so Sharon teaches courses relating specifically to this population. So will you share with us what that looks like a little bit and who would be a good candidate for your VBAC classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So my class is called VBAC Your Way. And, 1 in 3 babies are born by cesarean in the United States. And if you have a cesarean and you go on to birth again, you're 86% of those people who go on to birth again have a repeat C-section. It's a little bit more than 86%, 86 something. And only 13% something actually go on to VBAC or to try and VBAC.
That's
So
extremely low. I had a different stat in my brain.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, that's
But
baffling.
but Allison,
Yeah.
if you do attempt to VBAC or trial of labor after cesarean, it's often called TOLAC, until you actually VBAC.
Okay.
Um, if you do try for a VBAC, you are almost 80% likely, 80% of those people are successful. So very few people try. Most people who try actually achieve a vaginal birth the second time,
That's fantastic.
right?
Yeah.
And, the United States is in a huge push, has been, to reduce the cesarean rate in the United States for a multitude of reasons. We estimate 60% of those cesareans are what's called unnecessary or preventable, and so many people, end up on the other side, often of that first birth, kind of like, wow, I don't know what happened. I got shot into the wave pipe and got shot out the other side, and here I am, and I had a cesarean, and I don't really even know how I ended up here. And I always say we should always have our second babies first, because you know we're so much wiser, smarter, confident, informed, positive, clear about what we want. And so I work with families to help them to plan to birth again after a cesarean. And I don't promise that someone's going to, achieve a vaginal birth. But what I like to say is that I do promise that you're going to feel strong and powerful, and actively steering the process. And really what we know from research, and I don't want to geek out too much, but, you know, it isn't that if you wanted to birth unmedicated, that you did, or if you wanted a vaginal birth, that you had a vaginal birth, or if you wanted a home birth, you had a home birth. What we know about birth satisfaction is that if you felt supported and a sense of achievement, and that you were in control, and that people were kind to you and spoke kindly to you, that you typically feel good about the outcome, even if it didn't go the way you wanted.
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, as far as like without giving the goods away of your class, how I'm going to tell you a little bit. So, we also help women prepare for VBACs, but through their pelvis, like through the pelvic floor. We're pelvic floor
Mm-hmm.
therapists. We help train the actual physical body,
Yeah.
for VBACs, or just optimize the physical body for the birthing process. And so, from a education standpoint, it's so important. And where do you find the confidence is beyond important, the support is beyond important, but where do you find like kind of the magic of what you can give to the parents? Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
clear?
So I'll tell you what the parents tell me that I
Okay.
give to them.
Yeah.
Um, they say that I help slow the process down, and that doesn't mean make the labor longer, but that I help them to ask questions, to make choices that feel right to them and their family. If it's not an emergency, you always have time to say, hey, let's take a time out and figure out what our strategy might be. I talk to them about the choice of provider, meaning the choice of who's their doctor and midwife, and where they're birthing, because research shows us that the best predictor of the outcome of your birth is what door you walk into and who's waiting on the other side, right? So we talk about the difference between VBAC supportive and VBAC tolerant. I'll let you try for a VBAC. We'll see if you can, even just the reality that, excuse me, if you try, you're going to be successful, because about 80% of people are. But you got to have people who believe in you. And so I talk a lot about building a team of people who believe in you. I think a lot of people forget about the partners in this dyad, right? Like when they went through the first birth experience, they often report and say things like, I thought that my partner was, the pregnant person was going to die. I thought I was going to lose them both. They're very frightened and oft traumatized. Yeah, I mean, can you think, Allison, of any other circumstance where we invite someone into the operating room to witness someone they love having surgery?
Yeah.
Like,
That
right?
doesn't happen.
Oh, we're taking your child's appendix out. Why don't you come on in and watch? I mean, we don't say that. But
Oh,
because a cesarean birth is a birth, partners are there, but sometimes it can be really scary, particularly if the person who's birthing is not feeling great, right? It's just, you know, it may be, cesarean number 4 today for the staff, but this is the first time families are ever going through this.
yeah.
And they come out the other side. So, to just be in a room with other people and hear how people thought, like, oh, I felt the same way. I felt the same way. And partners as well. I always like, birth happens to a family and we forget about that. I don't even know what to tell you. Really, magic does happen in those 8 hours.
Yeah.
Just being in a room with other people with that shared common experience, because so many people are told, oh, just plan another C-section. You'll know the date. Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to damage your pelvic floor like that? Why this? Why that? But for some people, a repeat cesarean is the right choice. But for other people, it's not. And sometimes that can be hard to find support for that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
When a lot of people tell them, oh, just have a repeat. What's it to you?
Right. I mean, it sounds like what is happening there is a lot of healing for people. And whether you want to say like, you think you were affected or you experienced, it is traumatic. Like seeing a surgery is traumatic.
You bet.
Experiencing surgery is traumatic. Recovering after with the support that we give people in our society is not supportive. So,
Right.
as far as the standard of care for recovery after cesarean, it's sad that people don't get the help they need. And so I think all of that combined, it sounds like you're allowing this healing to happen, and that healing and support and camaraderie is really is what builds that confidence.
Right. We have a Facebook group for anybody in the Seattle, Puget Sound area, really, for just support from each other. It's peer led. I mean, I don't do a lot of facilitating of it, just them getting support for each other. And then knowing that you're not alone, that you're not the only one that felt that way is really powerful. And I'm not like a huge activist, but like knowing what your rights are, like, is it okay if we wait a little while to make that decision?
Yeah.
I'd like to try something else. Are there other options? Nobody gave anybody that power before.
Yeah.
To say, wait a minute, am I okay? And is my baby okay? And if the answer to that is yes, then, maybe I have some choices and I'd like to consider them.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I have a few other questions kind of outside of the childbirth VBAC education. I know you do less. So do you support VBAC home births as a doula?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
They are not illegal in the state of Washington. VBAC's home birth after a cesarean is called an HBAC. There are some midwives around that do them. It's not, underground or it's not illegal. What anybody who wants to have a home birth after a cesarean should know is that they often have to pay out of pocket for the actual birth, but prenatal and postpartum care is typically covered by Medicaid or insurance.
Okay, that's great.
And, many of them are also successful because just, having a team around you who believes in you and keeping you fueled and energized with nourishment and encouraging positive, they're happening and they're happening safely.
Yeah, cool. As far as your childbirth classes go, we're talking about the VBAC stuff. Is there a little bit of overlap between your other childbirth education courses that you also teach?
Yeah. So, I hope that what's coming through and talking to you, Allison, is my kind of the threads of informed choice and where and how to get information, because that applies whether you're having your 10th baby or your first baby, right? And also, how to ask for information and make decisions. That's going to happen when you start to parent, as you know, right? like you're constantly challenged with what's right for my child, and am I making the right decision, and how do I collect information? So that's covered really anywhere. I mean, and good positions to push in, and how to help a baby navigate the pelvis. All of that is covered in everything. And there is a lot of overlap. There is a lot of overlap because it works. I don't mean it works, but like having that knowledge helps you. Even understanding, everybody's often focused on dilation, right? Like, how far dilated are you? Did you dilate? But we know that there are a lot of other ways to progress besides dilation, and helping people to learn like how to ask for that information so that they know that progress is being made, even if dilation hasn't changed.
Oh,
And even
interesting.
just like, oh, you mean I can eat and drink? I
Yeah.
can eat. They told me ice chips only. I mean, and that stuff comes across, in every class. And then, almost more than the information I'm giving is that I want to build community. And I provide lots of opportunities, WhatsApp chat groups, and Facebook groups, and other means for people to stay connected, because really I'm the conduit that's bringing them together, whether they're all there for a VBAC or whether they're all first-time parents or whatever it is, right? It
Mm-hmm.
takes a village, and in 2020 particularly, but
Mm-hmm.
in general, we've lost our village, right? Where's our people who support us and who aren't critical of us?
Yeah.
My like the WhatsApp chats, I turn those over to the families after class.
Nice.
Like, they are like, every morning when I wake up, they've like had 60 messages through the night, because they're all up nursing,
Yeah.
and just chatting with each other. And I don't even really read them, because it's just a hangout for them. I just
Cool.
set it up, right? So like they need that. My group stay together for years and become
Wow.
best friends. And I mean, not everybody,
Oh, totally. But that's,
but I hear it all the time. We
yeah.
met these other families in your class, and
Yeah.
you know, and
Those,
now here we are. We're going on vacation together.
those are outcomes you can't measure.
No,
Those,
absolutely,
oh,
a
that's
lot
so,
of joy. I mean, it's just so
yeah.
that's what fills my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. So informed consent, community, love, that's kind of what's coming through from you. And this seems
And
this
science, and science. I
in
can't.
science and research based.
Right,
Absolutely. You've
right.
said that. But
Yeah.
this seems different. This seems different than like your standard childbirth education that's being offered inside the hospital.
Oh, it's different than, and really almost any other childbirth education, because I really believe in engaging and interactive things. Like, I don't use PowerPoint, I don't lecture. We, even virtually, we are using all kinds of different platforms and quizzes and word clouds and polls and Jamboard and all kinds of Flipgrid or FlipPad. I can't remember what they're all called, but and we do skits, and now people be like, "Oh, I'm not signing up for that class. I don't want to do a skit." But I mean, it's like the person who's doing the most talking is doing the most learning.
Yeah.
And it's not me. I want it to be fun, and they laugh, and they, and I hear over and over and over again, I can't believe how much fun we had. I can't believe, like, we looked forward to coming because it was just fun. And my childbirth class that I took 24 years ago was not fun. And that
Yeah.
was before PowerPoint, and it was still boring. Someone standing up there lecturing like I was in school.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that way, time has passed for that. That's been there, done that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, for the person that is craving down on the deepest level, you want this outcome, you want this VBAC, will do anything. You know these people. I know these moms and people as well, these birthing people. And they want more than anything to have a vaginal birth, experience it. It's this deep-rooted thing for them. What would you suggest?
It goes back to what I said, right?
Yeah.
You can't promise them a VBAC.
No.
They can't promise themselves a VBAC. But regardless of the outcome, I want them to feel like they were a superwoman, a super person at the end of the process. What I want them to say is, I had a repeat cesarean, but damn, I rock. wow, am I a strong person? And so I want them to be able to feel like that. Like, you know, and I would say I'm like very blunt. Like if someone is like, I would rather die than have another cesarean, there's some work to do there. You know what I mean? And why is that? And what,
Yeah.
what's behind that? Because
Yeah.
really, I think more of it's a cry of, I need to feel listened to and heard, and I need to feel like I'm making decisions that feel right to my family instead of being pushed through the process by somebody else.
I think that's right on. I hear sometimes like my recovery was just so hard. I was in pain. I couldn't do much. I was so sad I couldn't even lift my baby. Like I hear this stuff sometimes, and that is kind of the driving force for like I want to be able to like care for my toddler and have another baby,
Absolutely, right?
Yeah. So I think that's some of the stuff I hear. So so now what would you tell those women or those people? I'm saying women as in people who identify as women or birthing people.
So I would tell them a lot of things, right? I would tell them, like, let's set you up for success.
Okay.
Let's make sure that you're in a place that's very supportive, right? If you've chosen a doctor or a midwife who at 39 weeks is going to say, look, you haven't gone into labor, let's just do a repeat. So are you in a spot that's supportive of that? And I share with my classes, like, where we can find that information on the Department of Health website, which it's not like, easy to find, of like, what are hospital cesarean rates? What are, did you know that you have chosen to birth in the, hospital that has the highest cesarean rate in the state? Like, I had no idea, So what I tell those people is let's make sure you're somewhere supported. Let's make sure you have a team to support you. And sometimes that can just be the partner, and sometimes that requires a doula, because the doula is for both people, not just the birthing person, right? The doula is for the entire family and to make them both look good together. And then let's make sure that you're doing everything you can to prepare for it, right? And that includes like assessing your pelvic floor. Do you have a tight pelvic floor? Do you have a loose pelvic floor? What are the exercises to help you? Particularly people who have very tight pelvic floors.
Absolutely.
Right? They have to really learn how to let go and bulge. And that's not something that's intuitive or, muscle memory to them. Because they maybe they're gymnasts or equestrians or ice skaters or, ultra marathon runners. And, I always joke and say, those are pelvic floors of steel,
Yeah.
And birthing is about bulging down. And the image I always give in class is like putting on a pair of pantyhose and then putting a bowling ball in the crotch, and that's where birth happens. It happens in the basement, I say,
Totally.
So seeing a pelvic floor specialist, if they had gestational diabetes or they're dealing with it in this pregnancy, getting help to make sure that their blood sugar is stable. And so even though, so a lot of these things I don't do, being in the community for 18 years, let's get you to, a pelvic floor specialist in your area. Let's get you to a chiropractor. Let's get you to a nutritionist. Let's get you to, a movement specialist, exercise, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know the best of the best. So, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you
That's
do
fantastic.
all that, right? Someone's listening to them.
Yep.
Someone's listening to them. And then again, I don't want everybody to have a vaginal birth, or I don't want everybody to have an unmedicated birth. If you want a cesarean, let's have the best damn cesarean possible.
Yeah.
Right? But I also know, and too, flexibility is key.
Yep.
I mean, right? You have to be able to adapt and change. Otherwise, otherwise you're just going to be unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know where to start, Allison.
It's so funny. I know. I'm like thinking, like, it's important to know that you're in control, but also to have no control at all. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But where it's easy to do that is when you select the team and the location and everything, and then you can let go and do the work that you need to do, right? But when you feel like you have to go in with boxing gloves on or be very defensive and fight, and then you really can't let go, because you're right, you can't be in two places at once, right? You can't be in control and surrendering to the process. So you have to build your situation so you can then just do the work of birthing, which is a hard day's work,
Yeah. Oh, no kidding. And takes a
totally.
lot of prep. Yeah.
It sure does.
So, all right. That's good. I thank you for sharing all of this. It's lovely. Tell me on a personal level, if you will, you could also say it on a business level, whatever you want to share. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where are you going to be? What are you doing?
Well, something that is exciting that I haven't really gone public with yet is I have been teaching at Bastyr University, Simkin Center, birth doulas for 16 years. And starting in January, I'm hanging up my own shingle. So I'll be training birth doulas on my own, which I'm really excited about, because I want to be able to help people build their businesses and be confident. The same thing I want for families, I want for birth professionals, right? So being able to do it in smaller groups will let me do like peer reviews and be available to help people as they're supporting their first clients and helping build them up and letting them know that they have everything they need to do the job well too. So that's exciting. Being able to do it in a little bit of a smaller cohort of doulas versus a larger one. So that's exciting. Where do I see myself in 5 years? Well, I love to write. I don't know. I want to still be teaching, and I want to still be lighting other people up. Despite being all this chatty that I am with you right now, I'm actually a big fat introvert, and I feel like I shine when you shine, and when you shine and you shine, and you know what I mean? That's what lights me. Not like I have to be on the front of the stage. I don't want to be on the front of the stage. I want to be behind the curtain going, that's my student, or that's my doula, they're rocking it. That's what I want. So, I don't know.
I love that.
I'm change adverse, believe it or not. So probably doing the same old stuff I'm doing now. I mean, I really like it. And I just have so many more creative ideas. I cannot wait to get back in the classroom, because
very cool.
I have so many fun things, new ideas. Yeah, it just, and even this virtual thing, I don't think it's going to go away. Yeah. I think even when we get back in the classroom, people are still going to want some of this virtual stuff. And I am having so much fun with that. I just found this new puzzle platform. So, I just started a new series, and for anatomy, we all put together puzzles of, the pregnant body. So it's just fun. It's like playing games. I feel like I get paid to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so great. And thank you for being the shining star and the star of our show today. So I appreciate you doing that. I just want to capture one thing, what I think is really cool, and where you could take this. And you maybe already do this, is really I'm thinking of my friends in Connecticut and Chicago area, and just all across the country that don't actually have the same access as we do. I've tried to find a midwife for my friend who was trying to give a home birth in pandemic, and there was no one in her town or area. And I'm oh, how am I not being able to help? I couldn't help her. There was nothing, unless she could drive to a birth center 2 hours away. And it was
Allison, midwifery, I don't know the latest numbers, so don't quote me, but I want to say midwifery is either illegal or illegal in 23 states still.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Right? Crazy. You could have a home birth, but you just can't have a skilled attendant at your home birth. That's the illegal part. I mean, come on. Yeah. So I can imagine having to drive 2 hours, right?
Yeah. It's so interesting, because we're just in such a bubble where, we can really have this supportive environment, this loving environment, and really provide people with the confidence. And so that's why I think your work could be cross country. I don't see why these people, my friends in other states, can't have that same supportive childbirth education.
That's yep. And I have families from California. I've had families from different because of the
Yeah.
thing that's been virtual, right?
Yeah.
Though I have had families fly in from Germany for a VBAC class. Like,
Wow.
yeah, like their people can be very, very focused and feel like they really need all of the pieces. And we are like the birth mecca. I often feel like Seattle is
Yeah.
the birth mecca, but I would be remiss, Allison, in not talking about privilege too, and white privilege, and that to be able to drive 2 hours to get the care you want, or to be able to switch providers when you're not satisfied with who's taking care of you, or to be able to afford a doula, or to take a childbirth class. So I recognize that with those choices comes a lot of privilege. And so I do want to say that if I do want to put out there, if people have financial concerns, to please, whether it's reaching out to me or whoever they feel like they want to receive services from, to see if there's a way that things can be worked out. Also, I also lost my train of thought. That we need to really, one of my goals, we need to make sure that, there are BIPOC doulas and childbirth educators. And doctors and midwives, right? Because there was a
Absolutely.
recent study that just came out that said that Black babies are less likely to die when they have Black doctors taking care of them. And the
Wow.
same with pregnant people,
Wow.
so not only do white people have an obligation, but we also need to center and move forward care providers, doulas, educators from the communities they're going to serve, because that's where people really,
Yeah.
really shine.
Yeah.
And so I want to say that a lot of what we're talking about is about access and financial
Privilege.
means
Yeah.
and privilege, right? And
Yeah.
so I want to do my part, and I want all of us to do our part to make sure that everybody has exactly what they need to birth safely.
Yeah.
And that may not be me, right? But then let me find you the person that you need.
Lovely. Yeah. So you do help people who can't work
Always.
with you. What lovely.
Yes.
Lovely.
Always.
Nice.
Don't ever let that be a barrier.
Great. Great. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, I just have to pull this out really quick. And I think that this is so special about doulas, at least doulas in this area, is like there is, I don't know what the formalized certification process is. And I know that that's part of the reason that insurance won't always cover a doula. But I think it's cool because to be a doula, to have that as your profession, you could take a class from you and be a doula. You could go through a training, and that is still, you're not a medical provider, but you're a medical support, right? Or that, I think that's a good, you brought up so much for me. I'm thinking systemically, and I even from a PT profession, we just don't have Hispanic PTs. We don't have Black PTs that, can really, it's because of the education structure and the system it doesn't allow access at that level. So then we end up with, the lack of providers and all that stuff. And we could go on for days about this, but it almost seems like that makes this is where even, I think, again, in the Seattle area, we're in this niche, but doulas can be a huge segue and be a diverse clientele to match what your client is, or wants and needs. And if that's that, if that's
so if you're looking for a Black doula or a Black childbirth educator, and you're a Black family, reach out to me and let me connect you where you need to go. And if you are somebody who wants to get into the birth work in some way, whether that's birth doula, postpartum doula, childbirth educator, lactation consultant, this, that, or something else, midwife, birth assistant, whatever, please reach out. Talk is cheap. My father always said, talk is cheap. I'm happy to try and help and connect you with who you need. And we all have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility to lift, and everybody.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, Sharon, Muza, thank you This has been lovely and wonderful on so many levels, and I'm grateful that you're willing to share your knowledge and what you provide the community with our community here. So I'm excited for people to get this information, and I think it's much, much needed. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk. You know, we don't ride this crazy train 100 times, you know, of becoming parents and birthing, and so there's no reason that the few times that most of us, you know, who do become parents do it, you know, there's just no reason that it can't be what we want it to be, and it should be, and we have that right, and so we can all do it together. And I look forward to continuing to work with you in the community, right? As
Thank
we're
you.
doing what we can to prepare people to birth those babies.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for
You're
your
welcome,
time.
Allison. Thank
That
you.
The Edmonds Mom's Room podcast is brought to you by Body Motion Physical Therapy. We help women through pregnancy and beyond so they can live active, confident, and healthy lives.